his paraphernalia, all these things are also of the same transcendental quality. When we look at a deity of Krishna, we can't think of anything but Krishna. That deity does not remind us of any other person or any other being. So when we see the deity of Krishna, we are automatically in transcendental consciousness. We see Krishna standing there in his famous threefold bending pose, playing the flute, the peacock feather in his head, yellow dress on. Oh, who else could this be? Only Krishna. So when we see the deity of Krishna, we're automatically reminded of Krishna, and we automatically attain some level of Krishna consciousness according to our advancement. Those who are really advanced, they say over and over and over again in the scriptures that the deity of form is non-different from Krishna himself. Non-different from Krishna. Why? Because as soon as we see this form, we remember Krishna. Just like as soon as I see, Anandavardhana's form, I remember him. The form is not him. Because he's right now in material conditioned existence. So I have to remember, well, there's the form, and then there's the spirit soul, the jiva. There's the form, Andrei Kazantsev, and then there's the jiva, Anandavardhana Das. So we have to be careful to keep those two things separate. But in the case of the deity, there's no difference between the deity and Krishna. Krishna is the deity form directly. So, if we do not accept this, this is offensive. And then there's a long list in Nectar of Devotion, I think it's chapter 8, of offenses to be avoided. And we should become familiar with all those offenses and don't perform them, don't do them. Avoid them like anything. Because if we don't, then we are contaminated with this anartha of offenses to the deity form of the Lord. Deity worship is very, very powerful and very, very important. I would compare it to, for example, when someone is training to be a pilot, they go in the simulator. And in the simulator, they can try all kinds of things that they would never try actually in a real airplane. Like one engine goes out, or, something else goes wrong, and then they have to save the airplane somehow. So, because this would be too dangerous to practice actual airplane, they do it in the simulator and they learn the procedures. Similarly, when we worship the deity in the temple, it's like a simulator. It's like a little laboratory where Krishna is present and his abode is present and the paraphernalia for his service, his worship is present, and then we get to practice his service in the temple. See? Just like every day when you do a full schedule of deity worship, there are 7 artis, beginning at 4:30 a.m. or so, and going all the way until about 9 o'clock at night. And these artis and other services that are there, different offerings and different rituals, thank you, they are there at different times of the day according to Krishna's eternal pastimes in the spiritual world. Technically, this is called Ashtakaliya Leela. Ashtakaliya Leela is Krishna's daily routine, Krishna's daily schedule. So the services offered in the temple are not arbitrary. They're not something that somebody sat down and cooked up, imagined, or speculated. They are actually Krishna's pastimes, eternal pastimes in the spiritual world. It's what Krishna does every day. And simply he's doing it in his deity form in the temple. And then we get to practice having a service role in Krishna's pastimes, which is what we're going to be doing in the spiritual world. So without becoming thoroughly familiar with deity worship, it's very difficult to attain our eternal identity. It's very difficult to shift our perspective from a material perspective of enjoyment. In the material world, everybody wants to enjoy. But in the spiritual world, everybody wants to serve. So how do we change our mentality from enjoyment to service? Well, we practice in the temple. We practice by attending the different services in the temple, and we practice by offering service and offering our help in the temple. See, the temple is like a little simulator, a little model of the spiritual world. And there's even a little model of Krishna. You see? So in this way, we practice our roles. We practice our activities in the spiritual world. And we get to the point where we can relish service activities. Right now, we're conditioned to relish enjoyment activities, which are not really our eternal position. So we have to overcome that conditioning. How can we overcome that conditioning unless we replace it with a different conditioning? And the deity worship is the means to do that. So if we neglect or minimize the service of the deity in any way, this is an offense which will be an anartha that will stop us from attaining the actual pure path of Krishna consciousness. And then there are offenses to the jivas. Whether or not a jiva is a devotee has no bearing on this. We should not be offensive to anyone. We should not be offensive to any living entity. Because all living entities are devotees of Krishna underneath their material conditioning. See? Their actual eternal identity is, just like ours, Nitya Krishna Das, eternal servant of Krishna. So when we see another living entity, whether in an animal form or a human form or even a plant, we should endeavor not to give them any pain or any anxiety. In one place, Srila Prabhupada, or I think it's actually the scriptures, defines a devotee as someone who does not put anyone into anxiety. That's a real devotee, pure devotee, does not put anyone into anxiety. Just like Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, his brother, they're described as Dhira Dhira Jana Priya Karo. That even not only the saintly persons, but even the rascals loved them. Because they treated everyone with respect and kindness. Even though they were actually the most aristocratic, most learned, most highly developed spiritual teachers, they treated everyone with respect and kindness. So this is love. If we love Krishna, we're going to love his creations. We're going to love his living entities. Like Prabhupada used to say, love me, love my dog. If you really love me, you're saying you love me, okay, great. If you really love me, then you have to love my dog too. So if we really love Krishna, we love his living entities too. We love his creation too. We don't damage it. We don't hurt any of it. We don't put any of his living entities into anxiety. We're faultless. We're harmless. We are, we're loving Krishna's dog. Like my favorite activity, is serving the devotees. You know, like I love to write and instruct people how to advance in Krishna consciousness. I love to even like go to the store and pick up food and things like that to serve the devotees, because the devotees, they're not only Krishna's dog, they're Krishna's servant. So we should certainly go out of our way to serve the devotees nicely and not put them into anxiety, not create any troubles for them, but have to develop a mood of hospitality and care towards the devotees. And anyone who can do this becomes so blessed, becomes so advanced, that because Krishna will give them extra special